Greetings, greetings, family. Sister Shanice in the house. You know what that means? It means, yes, another really interesting, fantastic, blacktastic discussion with you, our wonderful, wonderful audience, YouTube audience. And just want to thank you so much in advance for the discussions that you're going to be having in the chat. I want to thank you so much for joining me. We have a guest in the house tonight, and it's going to be another really interesting conversation. So as you come through the door, you know how we do. Please do give us a big up, give us a thumbs up as well. As always, it's a privilege and an honor to be able to interact with you, our wonderful, wonderful YouTube audience. We have such an important conversation that we need to be having as a people. And, you know, we're going to be going on to having that conversation very, very soon. Why? Because we need to take action about what's going on in our community. If we want to see change, if we want to see a better tomorrow, then we are the ones who are going to have to do the works in order to bring about that better tomorrow. Okay, let's give that screen a little rub. Apologies for that. And so we've got our work cut out. We've got a job to do as a people. And to all of the action people, the movers and shakers, to all of you who recognize what time of day it is and know, you know, that change needs to come. And if we want to see change, that we are the ones who are going to have to be at the forefront of that change. And you are a change maker. We rise you up, up, up indeed. So thank you so much. Okay, looks as though I've made that screen worse. I don't even have any tissues here right now, but hang on a second, family. Let's give that little screen a bit of a wipe. Oh, right. One of those things I should have done in advance. Apologies. Sorry, just smeared it all before. Right. So by way of opening, just to let you know, first of all, that, you know, you can also catch me live and direct on the Big G Galaxy Fiwi, the only de-brainwashing station. So you can go on to Zeno, you can just type in Galaxy Fiwi Radio. You can catch me there every Wednesday morning, 9 a.m. UK time through to 1 p.m. and on alternative Saturdays from 10 a.m. through to 1 p.m. where we have some really insightful discussions and conversations. And on Saturday, I did the community talk show, and what a conversation we had about some of the serious traumas that are impacting on our community. But very importantly, we also talked about the solutions. And so it was such a point discussion. We're bringing that conversation with us here today. Great. So the families are in the house, coming through the door now as we speak. So I'm going to go over to the conversation that we need to be having today about the situation impacting on us as a community here in the UK. But it's not just a UK issue at all, because we are seeing an increased level of violence towards each other globally. But, you know, having said that, we can just look to see what's happening in Palestine and Israel to know that the violence that is happening isn't exclusive to our community at all, at all, at all. You know, the level of violence and atrocities that Europeans are committing against their own fellow brothers in Palestine is obvious that there is a serious, serious problem and challenge in this world today when it comes to violence. And this violence is being shown to us continuously on the television, and it's impacting on us as a people as well. And so it is with great honor and privileged today that I bring you my special guest, our beloved brother Nana Agyeman, who is an award-winning social entrepreneur and CEO and founder of Access UK. Access UK is abbreviated for African, Caribbean, Careers and Employment Support Services. And, you know, he is and has been at the forefront of working with our young people for at least 20 years. I've worked with our brother before. He is totally committed to working with our young people. He sees career and putting our young people on the pathway to a successful career as a solution to some of the challenges that our young people face. And so he has been a provider of career services to our young people for decades now, and also at the forefront of countering the systemic inequalities in British society that impacts our young people within the labour force, because racism existed in the labour force when I was in my younger years seeking jobs and opportunities, and it's still there with us, discriminating and putting up barriers and stopping our young people from engaging effectively within the labour market. But today, with the work of Access UK and our brother Nana Agyeman, they have supported and provided a range of training and other support services for over 10,000 of our young people who have been beneficiaries of their services, services that have led to meaningful employment and career opportunities for those who have gone through their doors. And so, you know, we are here championing the works that Nana Agyeman is doing, but also, you know, we're bringing him here because we want to hear from him, who is at the forefront of working with our young people in an advocate capacity, as well as career and cultural dimensions as well. So Nana, with your 20 years of professionalism and expertise in the work of welfare and bringing young people back into meaningful employment within the system here in the UK, we thank you so much for joining us today. Wow.
Thank you.
Brother, please introduce yourself and give us some opening remarks.
Well, that was an introduction and a half. I don't think I can add to that. I don't think I can beat that. So, yeah, great introduction. You summed it all up. You summed it all up. We've been doing this work for a very long time.
And, you know, my brother, I wonder if you can give us a bit of an insight into the works you do, in case there are others out there who think, you know what, we need to do more in the area where we live. We have people watching around the world. Give us a bit of an insight into, you know, the services that you offer, how you deliver those services, in case there are others who want to replicate it in Kenya or Uganda or in the Congo or in Leeds or Manchester or in other parts of Europe. Give us an insight into what you do and its benefits firsthand, please.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're essentially a career service that was set up following the 2011 uprisings, riots, whatever you want to term it, where we saw, you know, from the data that 1 in 2 young Black people between the ages of 18 and 24 in the UK were unemployed back then in 2011, 2012, and it's still relatively the same now. And, you know, graduates are 3 times more likely to be unemployed than a white graduate, and so forth and so forth. So we were set up to plug the gap in mainstream services for young Black people in the careers arena. So our focus is mainly on education, i.e. improving outcomes in education for young Black people, employment, which is the key one, and the crucial one is enterprise. That means helping young Black people to be their own solution, i.e. setting up their own businesses, giving them the guidance, the know-how, so they can become their own employers, as it were, self-employed, etc. So those are 3 key pillars of our work, is improving those outcomes for young Black people in particular, but the whole community in its entirety. So that's us. That's Access UK. That's what we do.
Brilliant, brilliant. And, you know, if our young people are put on a road that is going to elevate them to greatness, then it means that, you know, we have a future, a better future as a people. And so any works that we do with our young people, absolutely critical, really is. And so we rise you up, Brother Nana, for the works that you do in our
We
community
appreciate it.
for our young people. And those who are in the UK, we can't get away from the fact that in the last month, very strangely, suddenly, within the last month, there has been a number of very serious knife crime incidences involving our young people. Now, what I must say, as I said on my radio show, when we went into talking about this, is that this is a problem that is no way a Black problem. We're seeing violence being committed by other races against each other as well. This isn't a Black problem, but anything that impacts on our community is really, really important that we talk about it as a people. And, when you see the faces of the young people who have lost their lives prematurely due to violence, too many of those faces look like our children. And so we've got to talk about it. And I want to go over to you, Brother Nana, and ask you first of all, why is it that you think that this is happening in our communities? Not exclusively our community, but we're going to focus on our community. What are the challenges? And family, just to let you know, after we talk about the challenges, we will be going on to talk about the solutions, yeah? We had this discussion on my show on Saturday, and it was so educational and insightful. I'm like, we've got to bring the conversation here. So we're going to look, first of all, at some of the challenges. What are the challenges and what are the problems that are facing young people today that you feel is creating, that has brought about the recent upsurge in violence and killings amongst our young people?
Well, you know what, sis, it's not just one cause of this issue. First of all, it's been going on for a very long time. It's not overnight. It's been steadily increasing year on year, getting worse and worse. And we identified in our last conversation a few factors that kind of are contributing, to the situation that we have now. So we talked about, for example, social media. The impact of social media, the systematic dumbing down of the population, whether it's adults or young people. We talked about the music. We talked about the use of, skunk. We talked about just the general culture, which encourages a self-hating psyche amongst our youth. When they talk in the terms of Black on Black violence, but underneath that Black on Black violence is definitely a case of that self-hate, which manifests itself in lots of strange ways. And unfortunately, the killings are a good example of this manifestation of the self-hate. So there isn't like a singular reason for it, but those are probably the key components, I would say, over a period of time. But obviously, we know about the systemic inequalities as well, the lack of opportunities, so forth and so forth. But I would say those are the key indicators. The erosion of the family, the fact that some parents are working 2 or 3 jobs to survive, therefore leaving them less time to manage their children, look after their children. And it goes on and on and on and on. Those were probably the key pointers that I would highlight in terms of this situation.
Thank you. Right. Well, we're going to home in on all of those a bit more. Okay. So we talked about social media. Now, how is social media being used to groom the minds of our young people towards violence? Most parents might think social media is okay, but you've mentioned that social media is having a negative impact on some of our young people. I wonder if you could go beneath the surface on that for us.
Okay. So let me give you this example of Elaine, the situation with Elaine. And in terms of, analyzing that situation. So he had a situation where the young man, the lost brother, is basically gone to meet his girlfriend, who is a friend of Elaine. He's gone to hand her flowers, which she rejected. And at that point of rejection, we don't know the ins and outs of the story, but we know that at that point of rejection, something happened or something was said, which has triggered him to stab Elaine in the neck, who was a friend of the girlfriend. Now, you know, a lot of these, a lot of our youth spend a lot of time on these devices that didn't exist when we were coming up, we were growing up. And part of our kind of our adolescence was involved in interacting with other people in the physical world. We talked about the churching thing, but in our last conversation, and just building up your interpersonal skills, your ability to communicate effectively. Now, if you're stuck on a device from morning till night, whether you're watching things on there, whether you're texting, you're not communicating. There's a lack of communication. And I think that is linked into what happened with Elaine, in the sense of you've got your rejection and then you end up stabbing the young lady for what? Because you can't communicate, you don't know how to interact, you don't know how to take rejection. Also, a lot of these young youth are playing a lot of these computer games, these violent computer games, which in a sense desensitize, makes them desensitized to the actual reality of what they've done. So this is exemplified in where when a young man was having a conversation with his friend, again via WhatsApp or via social media, after the fact, they're so casual in their conversation. It's almost like maybe they thought that they didn't, nothing was going to happen to them. I think what the friend said, delete the conversation, because if the feds, i.e. the police, get hold of your phone, they might use it as evidence. And it's just a very bizarre way of thinking, because what do you think was going to happen? Once you get arrested, you're gonna get locked up and you're gonna go to jail, because there was eyewitnesses, everybody saw what happened. So what I'm basically saying is that this device, which can be used for good, but invariably is causing a lot of damage, is causing that sort of disconnect, where they spend so much time on the virtual world that they don't know how to interact in the physical world, in the real world. And again, that is having a damaging impact that we're seeing one of the manifestations of this in the physical world. So that's trying to give it in context, in terms of what I'm saying about the impact of social media and all these things, and these violent computer games that they're spending time playing. Plus, when you add the fact that a lot of these young kids are smoking skunk, which is a stronger variant of weed, and manufactured, basically lab grown so-called weed, which is completely causing devastation as well, which is linked into mental ill health, psychosis, all kinds of stuff. And when you're young, you're smoking this stuff, and your brain's still developing, but yet the intake of the skunk weed is obviously messing up, that whole development of the mind as an adolescent. So that's another factor as well.
Yeah, and I think we need to elaborate on that a bit more, because you did for us on Saturday, and yeah. I was horrified really to discover and to realize really that back in my days when people used to smoke weed, it was very much a natural color, it was a natural leaf, and even though you're supposed to maybe use it as a tea rather than smoke it, a lot of people used to smoke it, and it never used to really cause the harm to the extent that you would consider it a major problem. If anything, it just used to make the many men, but some women smoked as well, it made them calm, it made them relax, it made them meditate, it made them think. But then, it's like the powers that be that have their agenda realize that, this is a substance that if they could get it in the laboratories and add some chemicals to it, can bring about some psychotic and some, demonic kind of impact on the users of it. And then, they, it seems, did precisely that, because now we don't have weed, we have what you're saying is skunk. which is a chemically manufactured drug that's been laced, I think he was telling us, with TC or something, been laced
THC.
PTSD, which can cause, you know, hallucinations, it can cause psychotic behavior and all kinds of things. And then, you know, not only do we have our young people smoking it, but, you know, we have our men smoking it as well. Even, you know, so because we were talking about absent fathers, and we were saying, because this family, as you know, this issue is multi-layered and very complex indeed. Because when we go into the home as well, we need to talk about what's happening and what's not happening in the home. But, you know, we're dealing with the drugs as well right now. This skunk, which is used and smoked a lot by members of our community, not just young people. So we're focusing just now on the impact that this is having on our young people, which is leading to a lot more of our young people going into mental health as well. So we need to highlight here, you know, you can't go smoke them something they like first time. It's been laced, you know, it is being it's been corrupted now to cause a lot of harm to our people. And so to what extent do you think that maybe this manufactured drug now could also be one of the reasons why you've got some of our young people that can go from having a heart of love and giving flowers to a girl to within 10 seconds drawing out a machete, you know, and sinking that into someone's flesh?
Indeed.
How is a drug? What, you know, can a drug do that to someone?
Absolutely. I mean, it's highly addictive. It's obviously sold under the framework of it being weed. It's not weed. It's not weed. The weed that you're describing. It's not the weed that Bob Marley was smoking in the in the 70s. It's a totally different ball game. And there's been many, like I said, there's been many incidents of the psychosis, and many artists have spoken about it. But I think what the agenda is, that it's obviously framed as very cool and, you know, very, you know, modern, etc. And when your brain is developing at that age, and you're adding that to your makeup, it's not a good. It's not a, you know, it adds up to potentially something like this. So it's something that definitely we need to clamp down on, because it's a big problem. Because, like I said, smoking skunk has become a cool thing. Just like I said, when I was in my early 20s or my teens, that whole crack epidemic that came in the UK, especially, you know, London and urban areas, is almost like that. But obviously, you know, we're in a new era now where that's a choice of drug, which is the skunk weed, as opposed to the commercial weed that I think you're talking about. So yeah, you know, this is definitely one of the issues that we have. But by all means, it's not the only one. I made mention about the video games. I made mention about the music, which kind of complements this whole thing, because invariably most of the musicians are smoking skunk, or they're talking about the smoking of skunk, etc., etc. And also the glorification of the criminal lifestyle, you know, the drug dealing, the misogyny against women, etc., etc. So it's a plethora of issues that we've got in our hands. It's not just one thing. It's just a whole heap of things that are combining to create these issues that we have in society.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a whole heap of issues, and we're unpacking these issues. You know, we're pulling them out, family. So one of the very strong messages that we are putting out to our community now is that we've got to try and encourage our children to stay away from the skunk. You know, back in the day, it was okay. Weed was okay. You could have a drawer of weed and you wake up in the morning and everything's all right. But it's not like that anymore. And I think we need to wake up to the realization that stuff that they've got circulating on the streets now, that they're flooding our community with, is causing major problems in the minds of those who smoke it. And it's not just young people smoking it. We talked about some of the challenges in the homes, and that herein lies potentially some of the problems as well. We looked at the fact that our young princess, Elaine Andam, who was stabbed to death in Croydon by the young man that we was just talking about, she was brought up in a Christian type home where she was being prepared to become a lawyer. She was going to a private school, and I've seen some of her videos on social media, which made it clear that she wasn't into no bad man. She didn't want to associate with bad man or anybody like that, because she realized that that was going to be a life that would lead to hell, basically. And she was warning young people about getting involved with the wrong type of young boys. And so it's ironic, that her life was actually taken by the very type of young man that she wanted to avoid. But nevertheless, there are some relationships that, our people are being brought up in. On the one hand, you've got, say the Christian type home that's, doing the best they can to groom their children within that religion, albeit, and then on the other hand, we've got children who are brought up in homes that have got both parents in the home and are doing well outside of having the morals, the principles, and everything that goes with being in a Christian home. But you've also got homes that maybe where fathers are absent. It could be a broken home. We've talked about the drugs and the impact of the drugs, not just being smoked by the children, but by the adults as well. So that means that you could have adults in the home who are smoking this skunk, and they are inevitably going to be impacted in some way by the drug that they're smoking. Like I said, back in the days, the man them could have the smoke and it's all right. It just made them mellow. But men get such a hard time in British society, even if they're working, they're going to want to kind of have a smoke at the end of the day, just to calm them from the stress and this distress of work. But look at what they are consuming. How do you think, if anything, that is potentially impacting our community homes, the drugs that the adults are now smoking in the home? Could that be having an impact on the upbringing of some of our young people?
I don't think they're smoking the same things as young people. I think there's a generational divide there. Skunk is a relatively new thing. Is a new phenomenon. It's not, I don't think they're smoking the same things. I mean, obviously, there's always been a drug issue there, where some parents are on hard drugs. We know this. Whether it's the class A drugs, etc. But in terms of the particular situation we're talking about, they're not smoking the same kind of weed. If weed is a choice of drug for the parents. I think touching back on what somebody said earlier, when you made a distinction between Elaine being a privately educated young lady and then being killed by somebody who clearly is not. What we have to remember is that we live in a village, and we don't live in isolation. I think the mistake that some parents make is that they think that because their kids are their children are so-called good children, that they're kind of exempt from that kind of engagement. They're not exempt. In fact, studies show that many young so-called good children are fascinated by that street lifestyle. And one basic saying is that we live in a very interconnected world. And you can prep your young people as best as possible, but once they go outside into the big world, you don't know who they're going to meet. And this is why it's imperative that we take a village approach to the solution, because that child that's supposedly not yours could be the one that's come and take your actual child. So we need to look at it from a holistic perspective and see it as our problem rather than their problem or someone else's problem. It's our problem. It's a collective issue. And I think that's the perception we need to. Sorry, that's the kind of stance we need to take.
Absolutely agree with you. We're living in an interconnected society, an interconnected community. So we can't ignore what's going on in our community and think because maybe we're bringing up our children in the right way, as you said, that they're not going to be impacted by, everyone else within our community. Because, as we were saying in the other conversation, our children who may be brought up, with their morals and their principles and their good behavior, etc., is going to go on the same bus with them bad breed one day, the same bus.
Absolutely.
And this is what happened to Elaine. She
Absolutely.
was on the same bus as children who had been obviously not brought up in the same way that she had been, and became the victim of somebody else's neglect for management of the upbringing of that child. And now we're not blaming the families as well, because we know there's a lot of external factors that is impacting on our young people. We know some parents are struggling to do the best they can to bring up their children in the best way they can, but there's so many externalities as well that's impacting on the upbringing of our children. And we're gonna, we're exposing it today, because in doing so, we're raising awareness. Let me just quickly go over to the chat, see what the conversation is over there, my brother, and we'll come back to you, see if there's any questions or anything that family want us to answer. So HTC Sensation is saying Rastafari don't smoke no weed. He said Norman is saying that he's born in Jamaica and he's never smoked back then. His mother scared him from doing it. And he said that I obeyed before. Later on, I realized that it was conducive to my concentration. He says skunk would turn me absolutely insane. Wow. And that's what's happening. A large number of our people are going insane. The mental institutions in England, the doors are bursting without
Absolutely.
people. Is that what's happening, Nana? Are you seeing this on the ground? You're working with thousands of young people. Someone else talked about just the snow. Norman said that, he's got an extended family members of between 16 to 60 who smoke that stuff. And someone was saying the smell alone, I smell it. You can just walk down the street sometimes and you wonder where that smell's coming from. It's coming from the apartments on top of the shops. A lot of people are smoking it. And he was saying, it's like sending people insane. Let me hear, we're talking to our brother Nana. He works with thousands of young people and has had about 10,000 young people go through his doors. And so he's seeing, the products really of our upbringing and what's happening to them. Nana, the impact of skunk. And
I mean, you've stated it. It's clear. Also, obviously, they also engage in so-called services that are very quick to section them. So at the point of psychosis, whereby it's obviously chemically induced, they should be going through a process where they're basically given a chance to come back or to kind of wean them off whatever they're taking. But what the system does is that at that point, they're more likely to be sectioned at the first point of any form of psychotic behavior brought on from smoking skunk. So the institutions are institutionally racist. They're racist by design. So again, you're dealing with a double whammy. So you're smoking something that's obviously bad for your health, but then you're encountering services that are quick to push you into that system, so they can over medicate you and then turn you into a real life zombie, walking around aimlessly, overweight, and clearly on drugs, which are designed to keep you in that zombie-like state. So it's a double whammy. It's a double whammy of self-destruction, essentially.
Yeah. And so, we're advising our young people and even the adults, stay away from the skunk. It's a trap. It's been designed, to give you, psychotic, illusionary kind of symptoms. And then when you go and complain of those symptoms that you are displaying as a result of the drug, as our brother said, those racist institutions are waiting for you with open arms. Wow. You know, and so when people start displaying psychotic behavior, when they start having illusions and stuff like that, you know, they're going to think that people, I mean, I'll tell you, I tried smoking weed back in the days. I was out at a dance, yeah, and me I smoked slick of weed. My gosh, it sent me paranoid. I felt like I thought I had to come out of the place. And so I was coming out of the dance and I felt like I was walking on the moon. It was like I was going in slow motion. And I'm like, no way, this ain't for me, you know, because back then when you smoke weed, it's supposed to make you happy. It's supposed to be, you know, it's supposed to have a really joyous effect. But the drugs affect different people in different ways.
In different ways.
And I've had friends who were smoking and they'd be paranoid as well. They think everyone's looking at them. They think some men, you know, and young people, when they get paranoid, they, you know, so what? Look at me, what? And then something come out. You know, it's the drugs. We've got to encourage the next generation coming up. If it's a lost generation, the next generation, we've got to be telling them to stay away from the drugs. They're lacing the drugs with all kinds of chemicals and poisons, you know, that's causing our minds to see what's not there and to be taking us away from doing the business that we need to be doing. Do you want to comment further on that, my brother, before?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, that's how the devil works, you know, in the sense of, you know, everything's packaged in a very attractive way, cool way. So all the artists seem to be smoking it. It seems like they've got all the girls, all the money, etc. You watch these podcasts and half of the time they're all smoking it. Do their podcast, that, you know, where they're interacting with the young audience. So they're normalizing that behavior. You know, the normal, like, I mean, I remember a few years back, it was the lean, which popular rappers in America, which is that cocktail of codeine and, you know, whatever it is, alcohol mixed up together, you know, that was having a major impact. So it's always packaged in a very cool way, palatable way, but the damage is there. And like, as you know very well, sister, there's a taboo in our community with mental health. You know, people be opening up about their mental health problems, etc. And there's a very few services that are culturally competent to understand the challenges that young Black people face. I went to an event today with a Black History event where I bumped into a few sisters that, you know, doing this work around mental health and our community. It was great to see. So I've taken the information and I'm going to spread it, you know, share that information out with the wider community, because it's important for people to know these services are there to support you. Mm-hmm. These services that are run by people that look like you, understand the challenges you face, and are going to help you in a much better way than, you know, the mainstream services and the establishment are going to. So I think, you know, it's we need to normalize the whole purpose of talking about these issues, not making it a taboo subject, just opening up for people just to offload, because we live in a very pressurized system in the West, very, very pressurized in every single way. And I like back home, you know, our back home audience, where you have your family and sending family to offload to. That doesn't really work over here on the Western side. It doesn't work. It's literally every man for themselves. So that's not conducive for good mental well-being, living in that kind of pressurized cooker.
If you have the details of those mental health organizations, the sisters that you talked about, you know, feel free to give the details out live. I
mean, the particular organization I came across, there was an organization called BAYO, or BAYO, how you pronounce it, BAYO. They're under the umbrella of the UBELE, UBELE, the UBELE Initiative, another African-led organization doing lots of great work in the community. You also have Black Thrive, who you should know, Sister Shanice. They're based in Brixton. They're doing a lot of great work. You have Haringey Mind, again, run by another sister, Lynette Charles, do lots of great work. So there's a few out there. that are trying to provide really culturally competent mental health services to help our community. So that's a few that people could connect with.
Awesome, thank you. So, we've just heard there that, instances where drug smoking is being normalized and glamorized, and we need to make our children therefore aware that they mustn't fall into the trap of thinking that it's cool to take drugs. It definitely is not. So before our children need help, just stop them. Prevention is better than cure. Going over to the chat. Welcome, Kwame Aboje. Good to see you in the house as well. He's saying, yes, our family must teach our young people their history. Absolutely. Go Travel Abroad is in the house. Welcome, welcome. She says our community has to drop the settler myths that don't distinguish between birthing and parenting. Too scared to hold parents accountable. So let's go over and talk a little bit about parenting. What maybe our parents can do better, what they've been doing wrong and what they could be doing better. We've already touched on the fact that, the weed that mainly the father of the house maybe would smoke and think was cool. And the children are watching the father smoke this stuff. The children are consuming the smell of it. They're maybe getting high on the smell of it. We've had an incident where a young girl went to school smelling of it. She wasn't smoking it, but she was smelling of it. And as a result, her school called in the police and they strip searched her in the most humiliating way. And so, the smoking in the home is impacting on our children in a multiplicity of ways, and it's probably dumbing down their brain as well, is it not?
No, probably it is dumbing down their brains. No, it's not probably. There's no probably about it. That's exactly what it's designed to do. It's designed, just like many other things, to dumb down the population in terms of, if you want to subjugate a people, that's a very, very effective tool of doing so. That's just one of the many tools you can use to do exactly this, that. Yeah, 100%.
So we've got to counter, this glamorization of the drug somehow, family, as the solution. We are going to have to start doing the works now. We need to recognize the harm and the damage that's being done by these drugs and now take direct action, to start countering this glamorization of the drugs so that we can save the next generation, because it's affecting the mind, their thinking capacity, it's making people paranoid, it's sending subliminal messages to kill, it's sending a lot of our people into the mental institutions, it's ruining homes as well. So, our sister Go Travel Abroad, who was talking about the home, let's go into the homes now. Obviously the vast majority of homes, it has to be said, do an excellent job. How do we know that? Because the vast majority of our young people are brilliant, law-abiding, hard-working, studious students, with ambition, want to get ahead in life, want to contribute towards society in a positive and constructive way. And we are only too aware of all the barriers and the hurdles that are put in their way to distract them and to demoralize them and everything else. But nevertheless, despite all the downgrading, the racism in the miseducation institution and everything else, our young people, through it all, the vast majority of them get through. But the minority, the few that don't, the few that are seriously impacted by society and are in the homes, the type of homes that maybe is not giving them the right morals and discipline and boundaries and everything that needs to be set to ensure that our children, grow up to be, of benefit to the community rather than of a destruction to the community. We just need a few destructive elements. And as we know, a little bit of poison can cause a whole heap of damage. What's going wrong in the homes where there is that bit of poison? Let's expose it so that we can address it. Where does that start from? Where does it start going wrong from?
Well, they say, what do they say? Charity begins at home. And again, going back to our last conversation we had, you know, it was brought to my attention by my good friend that the children that we're talking about, you know, who were between a certain particular age, they're my generation's children. And he kind of got me to think about going back 20 years, you know, ago or more, when, you know, the advent of jungle music, the advent of, you know, the crack cocaine epidemic that kind of was taking hold of the culture around that time. Those that were caught up in the street life, you know, going in and out of jail, etc. Mothers, you know, with 3, 4, 5 different fathers, etc. for the children. That whole he brought me back to that era, and he's saying, look, essentially the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Now, a lot of these young people that are running around doing all this crazy stuff, they're the offspring of that generation. And when he said that, it actually made perfect sense. So if you have a young man who's 20 years old, he's got a father that's, I don't know, 40 years old, say, who is now out of jail, you know, been in and out of jail all his life or never been in his life, he has got no authority to tell that young person how to live his life. On what grounds? You've never been there. You've never provided. You've never done anything. Why should I listen to you? You might even be washed up. You might be, you know, you might have mental health issues. So there was that lost generation, as it were, who gave birth to these young people, and now we're seeing the results of it. But by all means, it's not the only reason. You could even have a parent that's never been in that lifestyle, never lived that lifestyle, but yet they're part of that contingent, that 50% that statistics say are living below the breadline. They might be part of that contingent that can't find employment. There might even be that contingent that might be graduates, but because of the systemic racism, they can't find work. So we know in the UK, if you're a black graduate with first class degree, and there's a white graduate with a first class degree, we know that statistically, that white graduate will have a much better chance of finding work than the black graduate. So even those who are educated, have done all the right things, they're still struggling against systemic racism. So for instance, we know there's studies to show, for example, you know, you got a John Smith, you may have another Agyeman, they're both qualified, they apply for the same job. Simply because my name is Nana Agyeman, I'm going to get less interviews than John Smith. John Smith is assumed to be white, and Nana Agyeman is assumed to be a foreigner because of my name. So, and this is data, this is statistical, it's not about opinion, these are facts. So they are 3 times more likely to be unemployed than a white graduate. So you've got all these different ingredients and variants that go into the situation that we have now. So if you're a parent, you're a single parent, a parent, and you're forced to work 3 jobs in order to sustain your family, what time have you got to dedicate towards quality time with your children to make sure they're doing the right things? Essentially, that child, once they come home, they've got a window of opportunity to mix with anybody they like, or to have anybody in their home they're not supposed to have. And it goes on and on and on and on. And this has led to the kind of the degeneration of that generation, as it were. So yeah, it's not just you know, it's not just the parents' fault. There's also other factors that come into it. There's so-called good parents that are struggling, doing the best they can, but yet their children will still go out into the wider world and be open to the forces that are out there, which are being well-financed, well-oiled machines that are again designed to dumb young people down and make them open to, you know, all these things that are happening out there.
Yes, indeed. Systemic racism, the fathers of the generation of the crack cocaine and the heroin and all those other hard drugs that have brought children into the world who weren't in the home because they were in prison half of the time, Wow, all of this now is impacted on our children. And this is where the extended family and the role of the extended family is so, so important. But as you said, in the UK today, most people, most of us live individual lives because, you know, they've got, they don't even really cater for extended family in terms of housing. It's all about, you know, just mother, father, and the one or two children. It's not, you know, a home for mother, father, granny, uncle, aunts, and all the rest of it. And when you had that extended family, and you were a close-knit family, there was always someone there for the young people to talk to. They always had their favorite auntie, their favorite cousin, their favorite uncle. There was always someone they could confide in, who they could, you know, and it's so important, as we were saying earlier, for young people to be able to talk, because it helps with their communication skills. It helps, you know, to relieve any mental stresses. And so if that's missing in the home and mum's out working 2-3 jobs, father's in jail or something, who they got to talk to? Their peers. Who are their peers? You know, I was saying when we did our radio show that, you know, back in the days, you know, if you wanted to meet up your friend, it wasn't a text message, oh, I'll meet you, you know, you had to go and knock on your friend's house. And then your mom and or your dad would see who your friend is. And then they would say to you, I like that friend there. Or then we'll say to you, you see that one there, don't bother make them come back at this house here. And don't find yourself any, because, you know, they would test the spirit of your friends. So our parents knew who our friends were. Do our parents know today who the friends are of their children? You know? And so we talked about those children who are grown up in certain environments, you know, that support their children's upbringing. Say, for example, the religious environment, the Muslims, the Christians, you know, they have their set values and their expectations, and they've set out for those children how they should conduct themselves within society, how they should conduct themselves within relationships, form relationships, etc., etc. Outside of that, you know, we've got the falling system. Some people call it the schooling system. That's, you know, indoctrinating our children with certain, you know, values that our generation would be totally opposed to. And they're exposing them to certain lifestyles and certain behaviors that, you know, we're seeing the effects of. And so, you know, it's so important for the parents to take responsibility for the grooming of their children, no matter how busy they are, because if they're not doing it, and if their children isn't in an environment or a setting or a Saturday school or alternative education system, you know, that can give them those values, those boundaries, the aspiration that they'll need and the motivation that they'll need to keep going and all the rest of it, if they're not getting that external support that they need in order to get through in this world today, then, you know, we're setting up our young people to fail. And if we're doing that, then we've only got ourselves to blame for what comes back, you know, home. Let's see what's going on in the chat. So Brother Leroy says, drugs are only a small part of the problem. Root cause is the value of traditional career routes had been diminished among young Black people, so they have no goals in life and turn to drugs, etc. So wow, you know, we can add to that a list of reasons why young people might turn to drugs, why even adults turn to drugs. So we come back to drugs being the problems, but as he was saying, the root causes. Let's touch on some more of those root causes, beloved.
Oh, the root causes. I mean, okay. If we're going to talk about root causes, I mean, you could still say drugs is a root cause, because that is the catalyst for the behavior, the action. So the killing becomes a symptom of the drug use. So, you know, I think what the brother might be alluding to is the fact that, you know, we're, as a people in the West, and it's certainly in the UK, we're the bottom of the socioeconomic ladder in many regards, and obviously this manifests in sort of poor housing and poor food and, you know, so forth, and so poor education, and that all leads to the end result, which is often negative. So I think that's what the brother, in terms of the root causes, that's what the brother is maybe alluding to. But I mean, there's a bigger question, which is all about the self-hating psyche that Black people have in general, and certainly the you know, young people do as well, in terms of, you know, how they view each other, the so-called black on black crime. I was on the radio earlier today, and I was talking about the what's called the kind of the reasons why Black History Month came about. One of the reasons why it came about was that the brother who's Ghanaian, who came up with a concept for the UK, he was at work. He was speaking to a sister who he worked with, and the sister told him a story that her young son, she was speaking to a young son, wanted to be white. Well, asked her mum, why can't I be white? And that kind of triggered the brother to set up Black History Month over here. So basically, it's about building up self-esteem, cultural esteem, build up the foundations to be successful within this context, within living effectively behind enemy lines. If you're not equipped with that knowledge of self, you're not equipped with that history, you're not going to value your Blackness. And I think this is at the core. When we talk about root causes, that's definitely at the core of the violence between young Black people. Definitely how they view themselves, or lack of self-worth, or lack of understanding of their history is definitely a factor if we're talking about root causes.
Yeah. Lack of self-esteem, lack of race esteem, race hate, self-hate, low self-esteem, all of that. And society is drumming all of that into our young people through the miseducation system, through the films that they watch, the media, and everything else. And so systemic racism, you could also be seen as a root cause of a lot of the problems that we're having today. Because if we had a society that valued our young people, that valued the contribution that, you know, our young people are making towards society, we were putting everything in place for those young people, they would grow up totally different. I mean, if I was Prime Minister, I wouldn't be cutting the youth budget. I think I read somewhere a little while back, I can't remember how much now, but the youth budget has been cut over the last decade by billions. You know, so what are you putting in place for the young people? Nothing. You're taking it all away, you know. And I just want to rise up. You mentioned our elder Echaba Adesebu, who introduced Black History Month here in the UK. Rise up, brother Echaba, who's been on my who's been a guest on my show before. Wonderful elder. So yes, lots of contributory factors. In a little while, family, for those of you in the audience, I'm going to drop the Zoom link in the chat so that you can click on it and join us if you would like to make a contribution towards the discussion. Agyeman in the house, welcome. He says, who controls the power of institutions one formulates one's identity under? There is that part as well. The powerful institutions that control how we see ourselves. And so if our mind is being shaped to see ourselves as less than, as inferior, as incompetent, if we don't have any examples within our community of success, and all we're seeing is prison and drugs and mental institutions, that's inevitably going to impact how we feel. I wonder if you can say something about the lack of positive representation in our communities, and why that is important, and why it's important for young people to maybe have positive representation.
Yeah. Because, you know, I know you're not a religious person, but, you know, in the Bible it says, you know, as a man thinketh, so is he. So in other words, you are what you think, and you are what you see. Now, that's not to say there's not successful professionals who are quote unquote straight goers in our community. There's plenty. There's successful doctors, lawyers, business people, etc., but they're not visible. As I said in our last discussion, a lot of people judge their kind of success by their proximity to Europeans, i.e. if they live next door to a European and they live in an affluent area, that's how they define success. So they will move inevitably from those, poor areas and move out to more affluent areas. And once they move to those affluent areas, they don't tend to come back and show their success, as it were. So therefore, it becomes void. So the only examples of success that these young people are seeing that's visible to them are the criminals, are the shotters, are the, so forth and so forth. People that have to know good. And you have to be completely absurd to think that they're not going to follow that example, or that's not going to be attractive to them. Of course it is, because you see that these people got all the women, they got the nice cars, they got the jewelry, etc., etc. So it's an easy pull for them to go down the wrong path, especially if you come from a family that are struggling. If you come from a family where mummy is, do 2 or 3 jobs, and someone offers you £200 just to, go down the road 10 minutes and come back, etc., etc. So it opens up a can of worms. That's not because the role models are not there, they're not visible. They're not visible. I've got a friend that does a lot of talks in Parliament with prominent figures within our community, bankers, lawyers, etc. And that's one of the questions I put to them in Parliament was, it's all well and good you talk to us professionals over here, community people over here. That's great. But if I lined up 100 of my beneficiaries, young beneficiaries right now, would they know who you are? No, they wouldn't. So therefore, you serve no purpose. So for me, all these people with all their titles and all this thing, letters after their names, you're no good to us if you're not coming to the community and actually sharing your journey, and showing young people how you got there. We're about to launch a podcast, which is specifically being launched to complement our everyday work. It's called Road to CEO podcast. Now, that Road to CEO podcast, what we're showing young people is examples of people they know who've come from the community that have made it legitimately, not through music necessarily or sports, but through other endeavors. So, for instance, I've got a friend of mine who just opened up a jewelry shop in Mayfair. I think he's probably the only black person that's got a jewelry shop in Mayfair, and he comes from one of the estates in Tottenham. I think it might be Bulwell Farm or Northumberland Park. I can't remember which one. But these are estates where young people would recognize the struggle. And if they see somebody like my friend who's made that transition, that's a powerful, powerful thing that we can show them. Look, you can make it out of the hood and you can aspire to do X, Y, Z. But these are real life examples that, of people they can relate to. They're not so far, so disconnected for them, they can't have no kind of attachment to them. And that's what we're doing here. We're going to bring light to individuals from, older people that have grown up in a particular, come from a particular socioeconomic background, that have quote unquote made it, are successful, and it can give something back to the community. And that's what we're doing. That's the whole purpose of it, is to create those visible role models that are not far-fetched. They're very real, realistic.
Brilliant. As someone in the chat was saying, how many successful athletes, black footballers, and black successful entertainers do our young people need to see? But the point we're making is that they're not seeing them within our community. When they do see them, they're often not with people or partners who look like them, and they don't live in our communities. They exit our communities. And so what is the message that they're sending to our young people there? We'll leave you, who are making those comments, to give that some thought. What is the message that these successful people who exit our community, stay outside of our race, what message are they sending to our children? Is it one of race esteem or self-hate?
Indeed. I think the person misconstrued what I was saying. I was saying the opposite. I'm saying I'm not here to bring light to those obvious examples. It's the examples that they're not used to. Like my friend Chifa, who has the shop in Mayfair, and he's from one of those notorious estates of Haringey. So that's what we're doing. We're not buying into the stereotypes, etc. Because even when you look at it, let's take football as an example. many of our young people love football. You know, many of our people are football fanatics, as it were. But in football, which I tell a lot of my beneficiaries, there's a 1% success rate. 1%. Okay, so if you've got 100 aspiring footballers, only one of them will make it. Okay, if you've got 10, only one of them will make it. So that whole notion that you're gonna use football as a means to escape is a myth anyway. So we teach our young people to always have a plan B, and a plan C, and a plan D. And there's also other, other roles you can take within sports besides you kicking a ball around. Same as music, exactly the same as music. There's lots of ways you can make money from music without you being on the mic, without you, making the beats, etc. There's a wide spectrum of career paths you can take within these sectors. And again, part of our work is to give light to these pathways, which they don't necessarily know about, So, yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely agree. So if your young person likes football or likes music, expose them to the range of business opportunities and jobs that go with those professions, because behind every successful footballer, behind every successful artist, there are the managers, the lawyers, the accountants, the marketing team, the PR team. There's 101 professionals supporting those artists. So, you can be in the industry, but you don't have to be the one, whose face everyone all sees. There's the videographer behind the scene, the editors, there's a multiple, like I said, plethora of business opportunities there. And I say business and stress business as well, because as has been mentioned in the chat here, Brother Kwame Boje is saying that we are too dependent as Africans. And one of the challenges is that dependency means that if we're not given a job, then we're unemployed. Well, what we need to be doing is becoming more economically independent. We need to be running our own stores, running our own restaurants, our own barbershops as we do. We need to be the providers of the services and the businesses that we use in our community. What would you say about that, Brother Nana?
Absolutely correct. I mean, I mentioned it, but I've said it. Sometimes I've said it so much it might just go over people's heads. When we started the conversation, I said that one of our three key solutions are education, employment, and enterprise. So enterprise is, like I said earlier, is showing our young people how to earn money outside of a job, whether it's through us exposing them to emerging markets like cryptocurrency, forex trading, wherever you may have you, to giving them the tools, how to write a business plan, how to run a business, etc. Giving them the tools to basically be self-sufficient. And the brother is absolutely spot on. One of the biggest reasons why we complain from morning till night on WhatsApp groups and, we complain is our dependency on people that don't look like us for survival. Once you break that dependency, you're less likely to complain if you're self-sufficient. So let me give you an example. Of this. So you have a situation in the UK where the so-called Bain pound, which includes Asians as well, is worth 300 billion sterling every year to the UK economy. 300 billion. Now, out of that 300 billion, they say that 270 billion has been contributed by the Asian community. So they have built an economy within the economy to insulate themselves from the racism. So they're less likely to be concerned about this, that, and the third. We're concerned because of that dependency. We're concerned because we don't own any institutions, we don't own any factories, we don't own anything of our own. So therefore, we're always going to be at the mercy of somebody that don't look like us. Some people will say education is the way out. But yet, if we send our children to that system, at the end of that line, when they've got their degree, when they've got their qualifications, somebody, again, who don't look like them, invariably, is going to make the decision whether they accept them into the company or not. So again, it goes back full circle to that point of the dependency. So definitely, in terms of when Access was set up, that was one of our key core solutions is how do we empower our young people to become self-sufficient, you know, to open up avenues for them, to show them careers, pathways which they've never even thought about, but they have the skills to do it, but no one's ever told them or given them the confidence to show that they can actually pursue these career pathways. So a big part of our work is build up their motivation, build up their confidence, so they can pursue these career pathways, which mainstream education services definitely are not doing.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. So I'm actually posting the link again so that you can join us here in the studio. So if you'd like to, you know, join us and come behind the scenes and contribute towards the discussion, you can do so by clicking the Zoom link. And if the Zoom link doesn't take you straight in, I've put the password and the passcode there for you. So lots of really interesting comments in the chat. Come and you know, make your contribution live if you would like to do so. Now we're going to go over, you know, we've been talking about some of the solutions along the way. We was just having a conversation about the importance of becoming independent, you know, being the ones who are running our businesses within our community, so that we can, within a generation, insulate ourselves from the problems of unemployment and all the challenges and the trauma, you know, for our families that come with searching for work, working for racist employers, and going through hell on a daily basis. You know, that impacts on the minds and it impacts on the family home. If the mother or the father is coming home stressed after a day's work, I'm not saying that running your own business is going to be any less stressful, but it means that you can have family support. Okay, brother, we've got our queen coming to join us. Well done, well done. I'm just adding her to the group. She'll be coming through soon. Here she comes. So, you know, we're talking about solutions as well now. Oh, we seem to have lost her. Coming again, Queen Baguette. You were coming through and then you suddenly dropped out. Not sure why, but please do add yourself again. So the link is in the chat. If you'd like to join us in the studio here, I'm here with my special guest, Brother Nana Agyeman, who has been working with young people in our community for well over 20 years and has a vast amount of experience. And so we're honored that he's here sharing his experiences with us today. It's so important that, you know, we share the knowledge that we have. Okay, we've got Brother Nulsi, who I'm just adding to the studio. And in the meantime, while we wait for them to come through, Brother Nana Agyeman, we're going to go over to solutions in a little while. And on our show on Saturday, you gave us a list. I hope you still got that list. I was making a note, because we need to be bombarding our family with what the solutions are to the problems. Yengelumbu Kiambote, Brother Nulsi. I know I'm saying good morning and it's good evening. Welcome. Take yourself off mute. Welcome. How are you?
Yenge Lumbu Kiambote, you got that right. It is Yenge Pimpa Kiambote.
Yenge Pimpa Kiambote.
So, greetings to our young brother, who's an example of the children that we need to have. Rise up to him. So Lumbu Kiambote is an introduction sentence in the Kikongo language, saying that my spirit comes after sunset to share what it has, its energy, its wisdom, with yourself here and with Sister Shanice. So normally this is what we used to do before we started to speak in the Congo. And we also introduced ourselves through the lineage of our mother. I come from such and such village. Before you started to utter something. But I wanted to contribute the problems that we have, of course, are many, and they are intricate, because we have been, if we go back to when we were as one people back in Kemet, independent or ruling ourselves, we're going back in antiquity, 500 BC, perhaps even more. I'm referring to the last pharaoh, Nectanebo, who was fully melanated. So it's been progress. It's, you know, us spiraling down. All in all, for me, what has worked, and this is what I want to share quickly as I can. I'm 52. I have 2 children myself. I was born in Kinshasa in DRC, but grown in the West from age 5 until you see me in Belgium, that is, and then left Belgium for the UK, etc. And for us to start reconstructing ourselves, we need to start from somewhere faced with all these problems, all these onslaughts, because we are being attacked. We are not doing the attacking, whether it's subtle or overt, like it is in many other places here. We need to have a strong sense of who we are in order to be able to partake and form a community. You need to have answered, first of all, 4 basic metaphysical, philosophical questions: who you are, from which genealogy, lineage you came from. Then from that, you will gain your life mission, what you are here as a cosmic being, because we are people of depth. We need to go as back as this. So that's the 3rd question. Then we need to find out what happened after we leave here. If you instill those basic metaphysical questions to your children from wherever they come from, as long as they are from us, that they are melanated, people of the sun, you start having some kind of grounding, metaphysical grounding, spiritual grounding, if you like, psychological grounding, because our history is glorious. That will create not only a sense of correct ego, because we should be extremely proud of who we are. I became proud to be from Congo, whereas my brother was not, because he was not grounded spiritually. He did not answer those metaphysical questions. He never see them fit for anything. That's the basis. And this has to be instilled by the parents. And of course, you can move from there through learning language, your history, up until we need to form a proper community within capitalism. Capitalism is a system designed as a pyramid, even for themselves. The few at the top, fed, made powerful through money by the masses. That's not an African system. Capitalism was created by this country here, Ricardo and other people, to exploit. So we are in an exploitative system, lacking identity, not knowing how to gain a sense of identity, not history. So to start with that grounding that as mentioned, that's my contribution in a nutshell. I don't want to be fleshing too much out, but it really is that. And it has worked for me somehow.
Excellent,
Thank you
excellent,
so
excellent.
much. Absolutely agree. We can see Sister Baguette in the house. I'll come into you in 2 seconds, sis. But just to agree with what Brother Nursi was saying there in terms of the importance of grounding, the importance of really from a young age getting to know who you are, your greatness, the potential that lies inside of you, you know, and to have a sense of pride in who you are, your history, your lineage. What we've accomplished, the greatness of the people whom you descend from. If our young people, all of us as young children, had that knowledge, of our greatness, wouldn't that have a different impact on our likeness? Are we likely to have that self-hate? I don't think
100%.
so. No,
100%.
let's
Spot on.
bring in Sister Baguette. Welcome, sis. How you doing? Good to have you in the house.
How exciting. Thank you. I wanted to balance out some of that. I support Brother Nwisi, what he just said, that grounding begins, if we talk about that grounding, it begins with the Black mother. It begins with the divine Black feminine in that nun, in that cosmic water, that form and that function that comes from the Father. It starts right there. If we begin to address it, and I'm always going to fall back, if we begin to address the historical and the epigenetic wounds that Black mothers, that Black wombs, that Black breast milk, that Black creation, all of that, if we start to address and name it and become aware of it and recognize it, we might see a different result. It begins with the Black feminine and grounding the Black feminine so that we're prepared to become mothers and offer children grounding. I absolutely agree with everything he said, everything that's been said. It's amazing. And you're amazing, my sister.
Oh, thank you. And so are you. I know our sister does an amazing amount of work in the community. And I think your phone's feeding back, Sister Baguette. So if you can put it on mute. Yeah, because when you come live, family, mute YouTube, okay, so that we don't get the feedback. And if a couple more of you would like to join us on the platform, you are welcome. I hear what you're saying, Sister Baguette. You know, it starts in the womb and the womb energy. And I think we even went before that to some extent, and we were talking about, you know, the impact though that drugs could have if a father, say, you know, or even the mother are on drugs. What is the impact that is going to have on the child in the womb? And so we need to, when we're preparing to bring children into the world, and if we're not preparing and we're bringing children into the world, that's part of the problem. But if you're thinking of bringing children into the world, you have to prepare yourself physically, mentally, you know, make sure your health is good so that your child gets the best possible start in that womb and start nurturing that child from in the womb. Absolutely love that and agree with what Sister Baguette was saying on that. Brother Nana, let me bring you in here to comment further, please, on that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, what can I say? I mean, it actually is connected to one of the solutions, which is us having our own independent schools, education establishments that are self-serving. Because at the moment, the schools that are educating our children are not fit for purpose. They're fit to create subservient people for the system, not independent thinkers who are going to do for self. So, yeah, this is linked into that solution, which is independent schools run by us, for us. Definitely.
Yes, let's you know, so someone's letting off some 100% in the chat there, agreeing with you on that. So we're talking about solutions now. Brother Nusi, when he spoke a little while ago, Sister Baguette was saying about the importance really of preparing ourselves, and the child is in the womb, and then once the child comes out of the womb, Brother Nusi was talking about the importance of, you know, finding out through the child, with the child, who they are, what their purpose is, giving that child a sense of purpose and preparing that child, you know, for the world ahead. You know, the importance of grounding he was talking about, and you know, getting our children to think about what they're going to do whilst they're here on this earth, before they leave this earth, and where they're going to go beyond that as well. So, you know, you can have those conversations in the home. We don't have to wait and leave it to the religious institutions to be having those conversations. But we should make sure that our children, whether we're in the church or the mosque or not, have an understanding that while they're here, they have purpose. They're here for a reason. They've come to accomplish and do something while they're here. Absolutely important. That gives the child the best start that they need, because I can tell you this, you sometimes can just need one person in your life that makes you believe in yourself. And that belief that they give you in yourself can take you through life. And that person that gives you that belief in yourself, if it's not your mother or your father, it can be your uncle or your auntie or your school teacher, or, you know, someone who you look up to as a child. So everyone, family, you need to be that person that young people look up to. And the messages that you're giving that young person has to be a message of inspiration, a message of encouragement, a message to inspire them, a message to give them a sense of purpose, to make them believe that they are somebody important and that they are going to do something of importance. I remember when I was reading about Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and he was talking about the influence that his grandmother had on him. She made him believe that he was great and he was gonna do great things. And he went through life believing and knowing, therefore, that he was great and gonna accomplish greatness. And he did, you know, and I hear that same story from many great ones. You know, the person that believed in them and told them that they are great. So give our children that start. And then as they start to grow, you know, from 0 up to 7, don't let them pass 7 without believing that they are great, and therefore feeling and knowing from 7 to 14 that they are great, because great ones are not going to want to ruin their potential in life. Because if they know they're going to be great, they're going to make sure that they keep their nose clean and everything else. They don't get into any problems, because they don't want the hell and the havoc that they cause to come and impact on them later on, you know, when they should be celebrating their greatness. You know, Brother Nana, let me bring you in here, and then we bring back Brother Nusi. And if anyone else wants to jump in, the link is in the chat. Nana.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay,
we're hearing you.
Okay. No, what's you want to bring me in? I mean, yeah, I concur. Everything you said, I agree with. We know, you know, the mind is a powerful thing. We know this, and you know, you are what you think. This is one of the oldest philosophies in the world, in terms of manifestation, thinking, and then making it happen. So once your mind's right, then everything follows on from there. That's the foundation of success. So you're spot on. You're spot. I can't, there's nothing
So
to add.
let's be the ones that shape in the minds of our young people. Don't leave it to society to shape their minds. And
Not at all.
yeah. Brother Nusi, have you got anything to add here?
No, just one or two things. Thank you, Sister Shanice. The big question that I often hear in the show that you run on the Big Afiwe station and on YouTube here, which is a valid question, the question of we need to unite. I'm putting forward a way to unite, because we are individual, first of all. That's the nature of existence. We come by ourselves, but just like stars, we belong to a constellation. The constellation is your parents, your uncle. So there are energetical link. You cannot say that you are alone and live like the cavemen that we have here. It is me. That's not an African way. So what I'm saying is, if you have answered these 4 philosophical questions, which is what I have been doing since age 15, that I remember back in Belgium. When I reached age 33, I had my first daughter, and I wanted to give her a different name than a European first name. My own sister, same mother and same father, was saying, oh, she's going to suffer at school. Why are you giving her this Congo name? To me, that was grounding. But they did not know what they are talking about. For us to come together from the different background that we are originally from, Caribbean, like yourself, British, you know, live in Africa. There are common grounds. We certainly are able to come together globally or wherever we are if we understand our original culture. That there was only one culture that linked us to one main identity. And finally, once you understand that there is no Congo, Jamaican as such, you only have first people, melanated people, in a philosophical war against second frequency, cavemen, call them whatever you begin to be a solution to the problem that we have in this material world. Actually, the solution, as per our ancestors, in the world that we see, will have to come from the invisible world. You need to know how to connect to the invisible world. To connect to the invisible world, you need to have a sharp understanding of your culture and its, you know, the strongest part of the culture, which is spirituality, how your divine energy received and sends information to its maker, the Re, the divine creative forces. What I'm saying seems to be philosophical, but for instance, we've got daughters here and children killing themselves in Great Britain here. The solution will come from ourselves, your mind, my mind, the mind of young Nana, if we are able to use our individual energy to fetch solution to a common creator. It sounds crazy, vague.
Not at all. It sounds fantastic.
Thank you. It is first an individual quest to reorientate our divine energy, our spirit, in order for it to function to the right frequency, the frequency that it is created, that it was created and meant to do. That's all it really is for me, and this is what it has been. So my own children are very grounded, proud to be living in a Caucasian governed world with African names, and they had a sense of value. Do not mean to say that they will not come across problems or life issues, but at least they have a sort of philosophical line that links them to me and to the ancestors. It's important to have the right identity before you build anything, be it community, businesses. We need to change our belief religion to that it was before. You can call it meritocracy. So the principle properly understood by our ancestors that we need to have as a philosophical compass, really, instead of all these religion, Islam, Christianity, and whatever. That's a natural identity. All you're doing is returning to your own makers, but with a sense of understanding of what the first people were, those who invented mathematics, etc. They had a way of viewing lives that we need to understand and go back to. Thank you.
Absolutely agree. And so, you know, thanks for giving us that philosophical, spiritual perspective, because yes, first and foremost, you know, we are spirits having a human experience. And so, you know, when we come into this world, our parents have a really important role to play, as you've been describing there, in terms of giving our children the right grounding. And it's been said in the chat as well, the importance of identity. Yes, Lucy is speaking fact, just like I said, identity. Our children need to be coming into the world, the bigger world, with a clear sense of identity, clear knowledge of who they are. They've been grounded in the fact that they are great ones. They descend from, you know, greatness, and they have greatness inside of them. They need to, you know, be aware that they are sent here with a purpose. and something to accomplish. And so someone said in the chat as well, definitely that here we go, definitely agree with finding your purpose. When you discover your purpose and embark on pursuing it, you won't let anyone or anything get in the way of any nonsense. It just would not be tolerated. Rise up, brother Ronnie, for that. And that our role, the very important role that we should have, it says, is that we should help our children find their purpose very early in their development. So, you know, so that goes back to reinforcing what I was saying a bit earlier. Absolutely key. I agree. And that's something that we have to do and take responsibility to do. And it's something that is within our control. And Brother Nusi, you know, just gave us an example of how he does that in his family. And so if each of us as mother and as father have the responsibility and take on that responsibility to ensure that our children, every single one of them, has a sense of purpose. They are grounded in terms of their identity as a melanated person. They know that we're all connected as melanated people to the same root, that we are one family, we are one people, like a tree with different branches and many different leaves. But if you go back to the root, we are one. And as a one people, you know, we are powerful and we have accomplished so much in the past, and therefore we can again in the future, irrespective of all of what's going on around us in the world. Agyeman says, Kwame, to have identity that is given to us, it's not our identity, it says. So this is what we're saying. We have to be the narrators here. We are the ones who have to decide, you know, what the messages are and what the sense of purpose is that we're going to be instilling into our children. We have to, because if we don't do it, society will do it. And we're seeing what the society is doing. We were talking about all that in the earlier part of the show. Society is glamorizing drugs. It's giving them entertainers and footballers and others who are giving them a wrong sense of identity. People who are themselves confused are the ones who have been held up as role models. I'm not even going to go back to where we were in the beginning of our show, but basically in the beginning of the show, we were talking about all the poisons and all of the toxic, you know, environment and indoctrination that our children are going to be bombarded with in the outside world. And so now we're talking about doing what we can control, you know, so that puts us back into the driving seat. You know, Brother Nusi, let's bring you back in here about being in the driving seat. In terms of taking control of our children and their mind and the importance of shaping the mind of our children. Let me allow you to comment on that, and then let's go back to our special guest, Brother Nana. Brother Nusi.
No, yes.
Well done to you. Congratulations to you and the works you're doing in your home. Just share some more with us about the importance of, you know, shaping the mind of our children and how we could be doing that and why we need to be doing it.
No, yes. As I said before, I have been in Europe since age 5 and I'm 52. I've made 4 or 5 trips in the motherland. I'm from DR Congo. But the shirt that you see here, my own children have a copy of it. It's made by my own aunt. Every Sunday, we have a sort of grounding day. My wife is also from the continent, but not from DRC, but we all wear the shirt that comes from there. And we also wear a different shirt where we discuss, debate at the table about African issues. We've been doing this since they were little. So we have this in common. I'm not saying that people need to do this, but it gives myself, my own family, because this is done by my aunt, a sense of pride, sent over shipped from the Congo. They would put all the frustration that they've had at school. Someone said this to me, I was mistreated this. So you do a bit of, what's the word? Psychological word.
Like therapy, isn't it, for the children?
Therapy.
Yeah.
Yes. Communication becomes extremely important.
Yes, they can, Yeah, I'm loving it. Carry on. Mm-hmm.
Yes, this is what we've been doing for years. And when it is sincere, your own children grow in that environment and it becomes an identity to them. They even though they do not speak as much as I do an African language, but they start whenever they see me now by saying Yenge, which is already the beginning of giving them a direction to where to go to their roots. I'm not saying that people should say Yenge. You have your own language, your own culture, but your own culture, your own language will intersect with all of us at some point, because in the realm of the spirit, we come in this world with one creator, R.E., Ray. That creator has a mission for a master plan, if you like, for me, you, and that master plan fits in perfect harmony, but we need to know how to play our part. And this is where this philosophical question comes into it. It's not my part to be running the show of Sister Shanice and speaking like she does or having her own ideas. It wasn't exactly my life experience of what I needed to do. I need to play my part as someone from Congo. The young man we have there, Nana, needs to play his part from wherever he's from, I think Ghana and his generation. We need to sort of understand what, or have an idea of the master plan as per creation. And this is the feeling that I've had since I've joined your show. So I'm playing my part, you are playing yours, the young man is playing his, and we will then set ourselves, as we say in DR Congo, on the road to Mahat, which is a long philosophical road, but there is only one road leading to the creator. In fact, I always explain to my children that there is only one purpose in life, which is for you to be the better self that you can be in order to emulate your creator. The creator is an invisible energy, but you are not here to compete with anybody else because you have your intrinsic mission in life. That's part of being, being grounded.
Absolutely. I think that's a great message to end on there. Be the better you. Be the best that you can be. Do the best that you can do. We all have been gifted with our skills and talents. We all have a place and a role to play. And when we come together with our gifts, woo, fire! No, we are almost at the top of the hour. Let me give our guest, Nana Agyeman, the last couple of minutes. Thank you so much, Brother Nusi. I love that. Bring back the dinner table, bring back the dining table, bring back the conversations around the dining table. Yes,
absolutely.
Indeed. Nana.
Brilliant. That's some real fantastic stuff. Really, really fantastic. And the brother said that, he was concerned that people might think it's a bit abstract what he's saying, a bit philosophical. But what we have to realize that there's organizations within the community that deliver this work on a daily basis. You have organizations like Manhood Academy, Origin, and so forth, who are really there delivering this knowledge to our young people on a daily and consistent basis. And that's, again, this is part of the solution, is the rites of passage is for our young people to have these conversations, to understand their Africanness and understand that it's powerful. And this is the foundation to success. And normalizing it, making it normal, making them proud of that history, and making it part of their daily life and routine. And like another brother said in the last conversation, you will reduce serious youth violence dramatically once that happens, because you don't kill what you love. You don't kill something that looks like you. If you're thinking of the right mind, your mind's correct, you wouldn't do that, or you're less likely to do that. So it's very, very important. But it's also good to know that it's not something that's abstract. There are, up and down the country, from, all over the UK, there are specialists and experts that are doing this work, and it's all about the African-centered rites of passage. So yeah, people should do their research. There's a brother, is it NABAS? National Association of Black Supplementary Schools. go onto their platform, have a look at the Saturday schools that are happening up and down the country, that are all around us and educating our youth. Check it out and go to connect your young people with a local school that can give them that African-centered education.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Brother Nana, for taking the time to join us here on the Sister Shanice Show platform, and for speaking to our wonderful audience out there, sharing your knowledge and expertise. I hope that everyone takes away the importance of the discussion that we've been having here today, and the role that we can play in bringing about a new generation of strong-minded, strong-willed, constructive young people with a sense of purpose, a clear identity of who they are, and who are on a mission to be the best that they can be. Thank you, Brother Nusi, for your input as well. Just want to remind the family that may have joined us a bit late today that we do have an event coming up. When we had the panel discussion about the DRC Congo, the rape victims in the Congo, and when we were talking about Haiti, you, the audience, said, Sister Shanice, you know, we need to do a fundraiser event. Well, the good news is, family, is that the work has been done now, and I want to thank those who have been helping and assisting behind the scenes to make this event a reality. Date for your diary, Saturday, the 28th of October, live via Zoom. Get your tickets from Eventbrite, okay? Get your tickets from Eventbrite. All you do is you go there and you type in DRC Congo, women rape victims, and Haiti fundraiser event. It will come up. Tickets are just $5. It's that right now there is a 50% discount. The actual ticket price is $10, but you can get a 50% discount if you are among the first 50 to get your ticket. So go there and get your ticket now. We've got a phenomenal lineup of artists, performers, guest speakers. Wow. Watch the beginning of this show if you missed it, to find out who our artists and who our guest speakers are going to be. In addition to getting your ticket, and all the proceeds are going to go towards Haiti and the DRC Congo, okay? So buy 2, 3, 4, 5 tickets. Buy tickets for your family and your friends, okay? Because the funds that you raise is going to go towards the fundraiser itself. So some of the artists performing on the day includes General Saint, Bobo Blackstar, Nsonga, all the way from Uganda. We've got guest speakers, Brother Capelle from the DRC Congo, Sister Rukia. We've got Dr. Abu. We've got Dr. Lee. We've got Brother Lida Bandaka. We've got Brother Leo Mohammed, amongst other speakers. We've also got our sister, Her Excellency Makaba, who's been supporting us behind the scenes in helping to get this event together, along with Capelle and Rukia. So thank them so much for all of their help and support. We've also got international guests, Martha de Solimi, international speaker who talks on Haiti, who's a major critic of CARICOM's policies towards Haiti. She's up there being an influential change and a mover and shaker. She's going to be joining us and be speaking on the panel and telling us what we can be doing. We've got Brother Jules Eloy from Haiti speaking directly about what's happening on the ground. His grassroots organization is the one that we are going to be supporting financially. So please do get those tickets. Also, we've got Queen Baina Bello, who's going to be speaking to us as well. She's an author, activist, a Voodoo Queen. You know, you've got to listen to our sis. She's going to blow you away. We've also got Dr. Kenny Bastian as well, another major powerhouse when it comes to talking about the issues of Haiti. We've got some greats lined up for you for the event that's scheduled to happen on Saturday, the 28th of October. So please do get your tickets, family. Absolutely, absolutely important that you support this event to make it the success that we want it to be. And so you can donate also via GoFundMe. So go to GoFundMe, just type in DR Congo Women Rape Victims and Haiti Families, and the GoFundMe page will come up. Yeah, we want to be a support to those women, those rape victims. Wow, wow, wow. Brother Lucy is actually talking to a lawyer, and fingers crossed he will be able to come and speak to us today. But, well, he'll be able to speak to us on the event. No, this lawyer is talking to a doctor who has been doing the job of repairing some of these women who have been rape victims in the DRC Congo. And, you know, all being well, you know, if we get through with him, he will be coming to speak to us to make us know the reality of what's going on out there and the destruction that, you know, is happening there in the Congo. Why? Because our people are not in their right minds. It's like what we've been talking about, you know, happening in the UK. If our children, our young people are not in their right minds, they will burn down the house, they will burn down the community, and there will be a destruction to the community. So we have to make sure that our children are in their right minds, not just in the UK, but wherever we are in the world. Okay, because sadly, some of what's happening in the Congo, well, it's happening. We're the direct perpetrators. We know the influences. We know, you know, we're in a zombie-like state because of the indoctrination that we've been getting from a capitalist, Eurocentric education. We know all of that. But at the end of the day, if we are the perpetrators of the harm and the trauma that we are experiencing, we've got to take that responsibility back. So we've got over time now. Just want to say thank you once more to our special guest, Nana Agyeman of Access UK. Thank you, beloved, for stimulating that conversation. More love and more strength to you. Brother Lucy, thank you again as well for coming on stage. Also, Sister Baguette, thank you so much for coming on stage as well and reminding us of the importance of that baby from in the womb. Hey, definitely. And she's written a book about that as well. Maybe she'll come back next strong and remind us of the title of her book and where we can get it, etc., etc. So family, all being well, I will be back next Wednesday. Remember, if you don't see me, make sure that you sign up to my new channel, okay? The new channel is, I've stopped sharing, haven't I? Yeah. The new channel is at African World Affairs. Let me put it in the chat, and please go and sign up there now. Subscribe to the new channel at African World Affairs. That's my new channel. Please do go and subscribe. I want to get to at least 100 subscribers by the end of this strong. So please help me to do that by sharing the link, okay? I'm climbing back up that greasy pole because I know I've had 2 strikes on this channel. One more strike and I'm out. And I tell you, me have to talk about what going on in Israel and Palestine, and them not gonna like it, because what I see and what I hear is 2 different things. Yeah, and we have to talk the thing. Not true. All right, family. More love, more strength. Thanks to everybody in the